Welcome back, everybody, once more to the Mind Blossom. Welcome back. Welcome back, I say. Get on in here. Climb aboard. Crawl up the ivory tower and join me in the Digital Alchemy Laboratory. We have before us a fine AI generated specimen. I made this with Midjourney on my phone. Ain't that crazy? I remember a long time ago. It was like 2016, maybe 2015. I was at a friend's house, and this is a time in my life when I was in school for nursing, but I didn't really want, I was mentally checked out, did not want to do nursing, and I was busy writing my first book, and I was focusing on art. And I was about to graduate, and I knew that as soon as I graduated, I was going to move to Virginia with my girlfriend at the time, and we both had jobs lined up to be kayak tour guides, getting paid like $9 an hour, right? And I was on track to being a nurse, and that's what I chose to do instead. But anyway, I was at my friend's house, and he told me at that time, he was like, shout out to Ricky, by the way. I'm not even going to be confidential about it. Your name is Ricky. Your name is Richard. This man, Richard, who's a tech guy, by the way, he's an engineer. I don't know what kind of engineering he does. I'm beginning to become suspicious that he may not be an engineer at all. I don't know who this man really is. Behind his kind demeanor, there exists a mysterious, dark, shadowy entity claiming to be an engineer. But you know what he told me? He said, Frank, I think it's good that you're going to be an artist because art is one of the jobs that's never going to be consumed by AI. He literally said that to me. And I was like, dang, you're right. That makes me feel good. Like, no matter what this world comes to, art is always going to be a thing that we need. And fast forward, what, like 8 years? Here we are. I'm using AI to produce my artwork. And all I'm really doing is cutting out shapes. I'm just doing a collage. The one human thing that we thought couldn't be replaced straight up got replaced before anything else. Right? How's that for unpredictable? But you really can't hold on to anything. You just gotta let go of what it means to be an artist and then find a new definition for yourself about what it means to be an artist. Art is gonna change. Magic changes, technology changes, the world changes. And you don't know how it's gonna change. It's going to just happen all of a sudden. Really, it's been a slow process and it just kind of manifests all at once, but here we are. Artists struggling to define themselves in a world where AI kind of outclasses them in many ways. Not in every way, in many ways. In many ways. Art has just changed. It's changed a lot. In some ways, AI, artificial intelligence, I want to say that it cheapens artwork, but I think that's just the wrong way of looking at it. I think that's one way of looking at it, but that's not really the best way. Rather, it unlocks new potential for us. It unlocks new doors. We can either be a victim of AI or we can use it as a tool. I'm using it as a tool, you know? I'm getting what I need out of it. Anybody who says that uh, AI art is cheap, well, it's like, but are you making anything novel with it? I consider this to be a pretty novel piece of artwork. Now that makes me think, what about empathy? Can AI ever replace empathy? Can AI ever replace therapists? Because that's what I'm doing for school. That'd be pretty funny if I lost my job to an AI being as a therapist, if like we didn't need therapists anymore. But at that point, it's like, okay, if we're at a point in society where we don't need therapists because we've replaced them with artificial intelligence, then shouldn't anybody really need a job? Like, if we're going to replace all these jobs, that should be a good thing, I want to say. So we don't really need to work anymore. And what would you do if you didn't have to work? Well, how would you spend your days? I think a lot of people would get consumed with entertainment. We would be demanding more, stronger, newer forms of stimulation to keep us occupied and to keep us from going crazy with boredom. And I think it's because a lot of people aren't able or willing to access their inner worlds and discover the magic of simply being alive. I think just, in other words, people are addicted to entertainment. That's how come there's so many streaming services. So many Peacock, Hulu, and all. Plus, obviously Netflix and Disney's got their own subscription. It's like everything. Subscribe to everything. I don't care. I mean, money is good, but oh my God, it's like, at what point does the game become not worth it to play anymore? You just step away from I'll just cut me a check for $1,000 a month and I'll do what I can with that. I could never really be satisfied with that. I'm always going to want to have more money to build stuff and to go on vacations and live very richly. But I don't want to make money by cheating people out of things. It doesn't feel right. It feels gimmicky. The best thing you can do is discover your gifts and then use those gifts to help uplift the world. First of all, uplift yourself, uplift humanity, and uplift the world at large. How can you use your gifts to uplift the state of things, your inner world as well as the external world? This is what we must find out. And the people who can't do that, who are unable or unwilling to look within to discover their gifts, they are the ones who will be consumed by entertainment when artificial intelligence takes over and we all receive universal basic income. You know how in the Matrix every person was used as a battery to charge the artificial intelligence? That's our Kundalini system, which has so much energy in it. And it fires off when we have emotions and experiences. And when it fires off, it produces these clouds of energy, these bursts of energy, which is absorbed by the machine. And so here we have, so far, 3 different pictures that I've used. This is the 3rd picture that I generate. I try to generate multiple different pictures and put them. I feel like more pictures is better, so that way it's more diverse. I always talk about how reliance on, if you just generate a picture with AI and publish it, that's pretty stupid. That's pretty I don't see the value in that. If you generate 2 AI pictures and fuse them together, you're getting somewhere, but it's still not really novel. Now, once you start to get 3 pictures, then you have enough diversity where it can become an interesting and original picture, so long as you add a lot of other adjustments like changing color, deleting things, painting on top of it. Anything beyond 3 pictures with 4, 5 is ideal. 6 is like you're going crazy now. 7 is like you're an artist. You know, what I'm saying is, if this with this style of artwork, you want to be able to use as many pictures as possible with grace and mastery. Don't just make it a clusterfuck of photos that you're bashing together. Make sure you can do it with style. The more pictures you involve, potentially it could be more difficult. But if you have too few pictures, it's going to seem like a cop-out. You're not really trying. And now look at that thing, right? Looks like a Yeezy sneaker. Straight up, that looks like a tennis shoe style. That looks like a Yeezy. I remember many years ago, well, like 2 years ago, when I quit my job and decided to sell artwork on the downtown mall in Charlottesville. I set up my little booth and I was so excited. I just had my little table with my black leather snakeskin tablecloth, and I was positioned next to these plants on the downtown mall, these big, big plants. It was so green and vibrant, and I was under the shade of a tree. And the vendor next to me, he sold a bunch of like scarves and little trinkets and stuff that he probably bought en masse from some online retailer. And he was a little Chinese man. And he walked over to my booth, and it was like a Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And he looked at my prints. I had all these framed prints and pictures and original paintings. And he said, "Who's going to buy any of this?" And I was like, what I said? You know what I said to him? I said, "I don't know." And he just walked away. And on that sunny day, about an hour later, this huge storm cloud crept over the city and started to pour down rain. And I threw all of my stuff into a box, dragged it underneath the nearest shelter. There was fortunately this big um, like parking garage next to us, and so I dragged all my stuff, all my artwork underneath the parking garage, and just sat there and waited for the storm to pass. And it poured down so hard. That dude, the Chinese man who I was next to, he was prepared. Like he did this full time. In the 6 years that I lived in Charlottesville, I saw him there all the time. And so as soon as the rain started to barely come down, he threw all these tarps over his wares, and he like clipped them down and whatnot, buckled them into place, and so it wasn't going any wind, rain, didn't matter. He was set, and then we just sat together under the parking garage in silence, waiting for the storm to pass. I sat there with my little coffee and my little phone, wondering about what was the meaning of all this. And it didn't really register for me at the time that what I was doing was in a way futile, and that I couldn't possibly survive. I couldn't possibly make enough money to survive doing what I was doing. I didn't realize I was burning myself out. I didn't realize the physical toll and mental, spiritual, emotional toll that I was taking upon myself by doing this and traveling up to Philly, traveling constantly, all the not damage, but all the wear and tear I was putting on my car. I was letting the passion burn things up too much. Passion will take control and burn everything till you have nothing left. But I can say that I lived that life. At least I got to live that life for a few months. It was freedom. And it was, at the same time, no freedom. I had more freedom than ever, and yet I was more restricted than ever because my money was leaving me left and right. I should have gone on to food stamps or something. I should have gotten Medicaid. I should have hunkered down and gotten food stamps, and I should have planned things out more. I took a leap of faith where there was really no target. Like, I was making artwork every day, I can say that, but nobody was buying it. I wasn't even posting it on I wasn't even making it all available to buy. Like, I was just making artwork, wasn't even putting it on Etsy or Society6 or any shops. I was just making it and posting it on Instagram and hoping that somebody in the world would see it and share it, and it would blow up and become really popular, and then somebody would reach out to me and be like, hey, I want to buy 1,000 of these prints and resell them, or I want to buy the rights to this. Or I was really just hoping that a miracle would happen. I was hoping for it. I wasn't even really expecting it. I was just hoping for it. And I was thinking that if I make artwork every day and focus all my efforts on that and share it, then something will happen. And when I look back, I'm like, it's so naive, Frank. It's so naive. I blew my fortune on that because I had a little money saved away, and I didn't even spend it right. I spent it on energy drinks and like cigarettes, and like the food that I was eating was like ramen. So it's not like I could have rationed things and eaten pretty good and just done things a lot differently. But it was my impulsivity and lack of patience that uh, made me crash and burn. Now, I dusted myself off for sure. I got a job. I even, like, when I realized around the end of like November, beginning of November, middle of November, I think it was like November 11th, honestly, 11/11. I was laying in the spare bedroom of my dad's house. I was laying on the ground. He didn't even have a bed. It's not like he's not poor. It's not like he's poor and impoverished, and he straight up didn't have a need for a bed, so there just wasn't one. And I was just crashing at his place. And I was just laying on the floor of the spare bedroom on 11/11. It was like, I think it was an eclipse or something. And I took that to heart. I was like, all right, let's take this astrological event and use it as a time to reflect, I guess. There's shit else to do. I'm stuck in between Charlottesville and Philly, walking in limbo with no money. And I was like, damn, Frankie, like, time to switch it up. And me and my dad had just had a heart-to-heart. I think he could see it in my body that I wasn't eating enough nutrients. He could see it in my eyes that my spirit was fighting for its life. And we talked about my situation, and he wasn't trying to hurt me. He wasn't trying to belittle me. I think he was just trying to look out for me. And it was like, be honest with yourself about where you are in life right now. I was about to turn 30 years old. I was about to turn 30 years. I wasn't even 30 years old yet. This was like just a month before my 30th birthday. And I was like, I don't really have a future. What I'm pursuing right now isn't really going anywhere. I'm not making money online. I'm barely making money at shows, not even close to enough to cover the cost of travel. And so I was like, I gotta get a job. I gotta do something now. But I didn't want to live with my dad, and it's no offense to him. It's just like I didn't have. I still need to feel my freedom, and I still need to be on my own because I need that fire under the seat of my pants to keep me rolling. And I had an apartment already. I was already paying for my studio in Charlottesville, so I went back there. I was like, all right, I'm going to make it on my own. Let me put the art away for a second while I apply for jobs. So I applied for jobs. And while I was applying for jobs, I was doing DoorDash. I did DoorDash for like a month. Maybe it was like probably 3 weeks. But I did DoorDash for 3 weeks. I did it like morning, day, and night to keep myself afloat. And by God, I did it. I kept myself afloat. I remember driving around in the rain, driving around in the downpour, across Charlottesville, delivering food, going back and forth, picking up new orders, and just being out all night doing DoorDash. in my Mercury. I realized what a waste DoorDash is. It was like people were buying Olive Garden for like, I knew that shit was like $70 for this little lukewarm bucket of noodles and the little cold broccoli in it, a little Alfredo. Put that in a bag and drop it off on their porch. And I was like, what is all this? That's a bad find. I may have been bad with money, but anybody who was ordering DoorDash, getting their little cold Alfredo noodles at 11:30 at night, dropping that off in the, they're not satisfied with that. I know they're not. DoorDash never satisfied anybody. DoorDash never did anything for anybody. Cold ass noodles and the broccoli. Fuck out of here. But it helped me survive. And I did get a job. I remember I applied for a job at a group home for teenagers. And the position was like residential counselor, and like I didn't know what that was, but it looked like I was qualified because I had experience with healthcare and mental health, and I had been doing my master's program, so I felt perfectly qualified to whatever this is. I can handle it. And you know how jobs on Indeed are always kind of vague and they don't make sense when you read the description. It's full of jargon and bullshit. But I applied, and that day, sometime in November, they called me and they said, hey, we got your application. We're looking to just chat a little bit more about you and, see if you want to talk about, yourself and why are you interested in this job? And I was like, I basically talked to them about how I'm a full-time artist, but I'm looking for something more stable, and I have a lot of experience with not only healthcare, but working with children, working with families. I've worked in a hospital. I'm pursuing my master's degree in mental health counseling, and they're like, all right, come on in for an interview. So I went in for an interview the next week. It went great. They offered me the job. But the thing was, I had to wait like 3 weeks to get the job because I had to do a background test and a fingerprint test and all this because I was working with kids and they don't want to let pedophiles in, so they had to make sure I wasn't a predator. And so I was like, damn, I still got to do DoorDash for like 3 weeks. But I felt confident, at least. When I got the job, it was like, oh my gosh, yes. At least I have something waiting for me. I only had to do DoorDash for a little bit longer. And I have this waiting for me. I have something coming my way. And that felt so good. And not to mention, the salary was $45,000. And that was at more money than I had ever made before. So it was like, not only did I land on a safety net, it appeared out of nowhere. But it was more money than I'd ever made before at a job or anywhere. So I was like, I felt good. And I was like, Frankie, you just got to make it for another couple of weeks, baby. And actually like 5 weeks, because it took 3 weeks for everything to process. And then after that, when day one started, it took another 2 weeks for me to actually get my first paycheck. So it was like, all right, you got to wait like a month before you get paid. A month and a week before you get paid. And I was like, I can do it. So I did it. I think I actually, even then, I still had another show that I went to. I still had one more art show hanging out that I needed to attend. It was a bust. Not to be negative, but it was a bust. Like, I drove all the way to Philly, like 5.5, 6 hours to Philly, which I had done dozens of times already in that stretch. But I did it one more time just to set up all these pictures at a gallery. And nothing sold because nobody went there, because it wasn't really like a real it nobody cared. It felt like nobody didn't even care. Maybe I could have promoted it more and marketed it more to my people, but it's like I didn't really have an audience of people who cared about going to a show. Nobody wants to go to an art show. There's better things to do. People just want to relax and watch TV. They want to be entranced by the spell of the motion picture set before them while they lay in bed, because it's so much more magical and intense and inviting than a picture, an oil painting on the wall. But I went anyway and set up all my pictures, and the collection that I provided was the Citizens of Crystal City, which is, I talked about that before. It was an acrylic series that I did. I worked on this every day. I made a picture every day. And I brought a lot of those. I brought 13 of them. I thought that was a nice ominous number. And back then I was really into spooky, clipothic, dark things. I was attracting a lot of that into my life. And I didn't sell anything. And you know what I did? I didn't even go pick those pictures up. Huh? I didn't even do anything with those pictures. After I dropped them off at the gallery in Philly, I never went back. And the people emailed me. They're like, we have your stuff. We're going to, like, well, you need to come pick it up. Because they just had it in there. And after they took it all down, they kept it in a box for me and kept it in their house. It was just these two people, this like man and a woman who were married, that tried to support local artists, and they like, I never got back. I never replied to the email. I was so unreliable back then. And I guess they just gave it away. I don't know what they did. I just let those pictures disappear into the void that is Southern Philly. So if they still have it, I'm sorry. Disperse of them, destroy them, cast them into the abyss. Do as you will with them. It's out of my hands now. I've got pictures of them. I've got high quality. If I ever want to make prints, I've got the images still, but their originals are gone. Good riddance. That's fine. Give them away. You know, it is what it is. I ain't tripping. I feel bad about not being a reliable partner for them. I should have been more in touch and more involved and like gone back and been like, hey, I want to come pick those up, but I just never did. So and I never did. Hold on one second. Oh man, somebody keeps calling me from work. I gotta pick up a laptop. I'm off today, by the way. It's Monday, but I have off. Oh, but anyway. Yeah. So then I got that job at the group home. And it was wild, let me tell you. It was chaotic. Teenagers coming from broken families, coming from the foster care system, coming from the hospitalization. Many of them had been hospitalized for suicidal ideations and intent. Many of them had no family. And they gathered here in what could have been considered by some to be a gutter. Though it wasn't, and yet it was. It was a home, but it wasn't a home. It was limbo. One time this girl cut her arm open with a bottle. A broken bottle. She smashed it against the ground and sliced her arm open. One kid was in the bathroom and he broke the mirror and he cut his legs up and down. And he walked down the steps with a trail of blood coming down every step. And he came down to the living room and said to everybody, I think I need to go to the hospital. Like, no kidding. And then I wasn't there for that, but I was his case manager. And so the next day I got informed about what happened, and then I had to go. Then I visited him at the emergency room. He didn't want to talk. He was out of our hands now. He got discharged immediately. His case manager from whoever his foster person was, whoever his social worker was with the state, that was all them now. So I just left, never saw him again. Chaos, man. Chaos. So much chaos. Kids fighting. Oh, man. But I was there at that job for almost 8 months before I left. It felt like so much longer than that, but it was really only 8 months. And you know what's crazy? I just remembered. This picture that I'm painting now, I actually just sold a print of this on Etsy, and I have to ship it by October 18th. And I literally forgot. So now I'm glad that I'm doing this because I just remembered I need to ship this picture. So thank God I remembered that. And I'm so grateful. I am so, so, so grateful that somebody purchased this picture. That is awesome. That feels so good. They purchased a big one too, a 12-inch by 12-inch. That's pretty rad. Maybe more sales will happen in the future. I'm hopeful. But at the same time, it just is what it is. I don't, it's all good. Like, if I don't sell, it's fine. If I sell something, that's great. Happiness lies in the process of things. It's not in the artifacts and idols that we, idols are things that we externalize our inner value into. It's, idols can be anything. The most attractive and glamorous of all idols are not even the physical ones, but rather the immaterial ones, like titles. What's our title? What's our job title? What's the label that we give ourselves? That thing that we cling on to, even if everything else disappears. I'm a counselor. I've got an LPC. Yeah, that's good. To the extent that you can use it for the betterment of humanity and yourself. But being a counselor, being an artist, that word, that costume is just it's nothing. Getting a sale is nothing. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you put your heart and soul into this picture, and that you were able to do something like that. That's really what's gonna matter in the long term. Yeah, I'm about to pause this, so give me a second. And we are back. Back. Black. We're back. I had to go to the bathroom and make a smoothie. I made a big smoothie. I'm bulking now. I'm trying to bulk. I am bulking. Almond milk, 2 scoops of protein powder, oatmeal, a drizzle of honey, a handful of spinach leaves, and a banana. I put that into it was chocolate protein powder, by the way. Get that in the blender. I don't even pour this thing in a cup. I just take the blender and I drink from the lip of the blender. I pour it directly into my mouth. I suck from the tit of the blender. There's no need for cups. I drink directly from the blender. Now I'm still working on my coffee too. So life is good. You know, life is good. How are we all going to survive? What are we going to do? How are we going to survive this? You're going to perish if you cannot open your heart. If your heart stays closed, then all the pressure that builds up within your heart chakra will burst. Or nothing will ever come in and you will wither. We block our heart off from the rest of the world because we have been traumatized and we have been conditioned to do so. Trauma compels us to erect walls and fences around our heart. Conditioning compels us to erect walls and fences around our heart. When one of your chakras is off, they're all pretty much off. Well, not necessarily, but the circulation of energy through your subtle bodies is not going to be, it's not going to have the right flow. There's going to be blockades, which is really your ego. It's only your ego that can endure trauma. The soul is impervious to trauma. The soul is beyond it doesn't, it knows that trauma isn't real. It knows that trauma is just a part of the human experience, but it's your ego that can get traumatized because it thinks it's separate and it takes things very seriously. And it doesn't know any better. Not to, when you're, it's, the soul, it's beyond. It just, trauma dissolves into a state of basically nothingness. It just gets absorbed into the soul and dissolves and it recycled back into light. They say that our soul can be measured. Do you know that? Some people say the soul can be measured, like by weight. How? I haven't gone that far into it. I haven't really been curious enough to discover what people mean by that, but some people say it like you can measure the soul in grams. Some people say that when a human being dies, you can measure the amount of energy that comes off of them at the moment of death, and it's like their spirit comes out of their body. Because there's a measurable and significant decrease in weight. The body loses weight a little bit when they die. And this is before the person expels their urine and feces upon death. Like, before any of that happens, because that does happen when a person dies. But even before that, there's like a weight loss that occurs at the time of moment of death. And people say that's the soul leaving the body. Because when the soul is in the three-dimensional world, it does still have, when our bodies are ensouled, there is a physical 3D component to that. All of that really happens in the unseen world where we can't perceive it because it's too abstract for our senses. But there is a physical counterpart. There is some type of electromagnetic influx, and so I guess that disappears when we become a corpse. But you don't need logic to appreciate the unseen world. Matter of fact, you can't use logic to appreciate the unseen world. You can use logic to prevent yourself from being absorbed by the unseen world. Logic can be a sword that detaches you from your delusions. All right? Delusions can form when you are imbalanced, right? When you are too far involved with the world of, with the unseen world, in the realm of imagination. The realm of imagination is legit. It's real. It's formless to us because we're here doing our 3D thing, our human earth stuff, our material, physical plane stuff. So the world of imagination is like more floozy, and it's not as there's not as much earth element to it, so it's kind of like immaterial, at least from our perspective. But the problem with that is the people where you can get too involved and you can like lose your mind and you can get lost in fantasy. And what that really means is you become so involved with the unseen world, or rather the world of spirit, that you just are no good anymore to anybody on earth. You can't pay your taxes, you can't drive a car, you can't go grocery shopping, you can't communicate with people, you have no ability to form relationships with other human beings because your inner world has consumed you to such an extent. It has absorbed such a broad bandwidth of your conscious attention that you just simply don't matter on the world anymore. You're no earthly good, as they say. They say, don't become so spiritually high that you are no earthly good. All right? I had the same smoothie yesterday, and I chugged it. and I felt sick as a dog. I chugged it, and then I chugged a cup of coffee, so that was just, man, definitely not doing. I learned to respect the smoothie for sure. This is like, how many is this? It's like 3 cups of smoothie total. This is 24 ounces of smoothie. So that's not that huge. And it tastes good too. It tastes real good. Wow, I can't believe this video is almost over. I have been going on for 40 minutes and 31 seconds. Anyway, Halloween is coming up. They say that when Halloween comes around, the veil between our physical plane and the so-called astral plane is thinner than ever. It's the thinnest all year that it will ever be during the time of Halloween. The veil, what is the veil? When we say the veil between our world and the world of spirit or the world of the unseen, what that really means is matter. Matter is the veil. Because matter is vibrating in such a way, everything is spirit, everything is energy, but when energy vibrates in a really certain way, a really specific way, it can appear to be dense to such an extent that it seems as if it's not spirit because it has this material, solid illusion about it. But that solidness is an illusion because really if you get down into that matter, even the densest of solids, it is still vibrating energy. Right? And if you just pursue that concept that everything is vibrating energy, you can venture into these vast, more whimsical, more fantasy-like places of existence where everything is energy and it's formless, and so it responds more sensitively and more immediately to your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and so on. And these layers of reality become so much more abstract than we can possibly imagine. So we can't really describe them. We can only illustrate them. We can gain some understanding over the astral plane. The astral plane exists in movies and video games, and this picture that I'm making right here is straight from the astral plane, which is to say the place of imagination, where the earth plane and the so-called abstract layers of reality kind of meet in the middle a little bit. They kind of have this medium of ether through which they can kind of mingle, and they're kind of here in reality, but they're also fantastical and not really in existence. All right? And so that's what's coming up on Halloween, and that's where the earth is going in general. So I just want to say that thank you for being on this journey with me. Make more videos in the future. I'm so grateful for my day. I'm super grateful for you. And yeah, thank you for everything. All right, until next time, everybody. Peace out.